The Blues Brothers became a cultural phenomenon, blending comedy with electrifying musical performances. Yet, behind the success, some cast members faced tragic turns. John Belushi's untimely passing in 1982 was a devastating loss, and over the years, other legends like James Brown, Ray Charles, Calloway, and Aretha Franklin battled personal struggles before their passing. Now, in 2025, what remains of the Blues Brothers' legacy? Dan Aykroyd, the last Blues Brother, has kept the spirit alive, but the absence of his co-stars leaves a void. How did their lives unfold beyond the film? Let's explore the resilience, hardships, and lasting impact of these iconic figures. Which story fascinates you the most? John Belushi, who portrayed the irrepressible Jake Blues in the Blues Brothers, was 31 years old in 1980 when he brought the wild-eyed, soulful frontman to life. With a black suit, sunglasses, and a manic energy that could ignite any room, Jake was a whirlwind of charm and chaos, bent on saving a Catholic orphanage through the power of rhythm and blues. Off-screen, Belushi's life was similarly fast-paced but tragically self-destructive. He married his high school sweetheart, Judith Jacqueline, but their union was strained by his substance abuse and late-night lifestyle. They had no children, a source of quiet sorrow for both. Belushi's post-Blues Brothers career was a mix of critical acclaim and personal turmoil. Despite becoming a cultural icon, he struggled with addiction, depression, and the pressure of fame. His friendships often fractured under the weight of his unpredictability. By 1982, his health had declined rapidly. He died of a drug overdose at the Chateau Marmont at just 33 years old. His death shocked Hollywood and devastated his family and close friend Dan Aykroyd. Belushi's estate was valued at approximately $500,000 at the time, but the value of his legacy continues to grow, cementing him as a tragic legend of comedy and music. Frank Oz, who played the no-nonsense corrections officer in the Blues Brothers, was 36 in 1980 when he handed Jake Blues his meager belongings upon release from prison, a small but sharply delivered role that fit his wry comedic style. Though a brief moment in the film, Oz's presence was unmistakable, much like his greater work as a puppeteer and voice actor. Known to millions as the voice of Yoda and the creative mind behind countless Muppets, Oz lived behind the scenes while shaping the childhoods of generations. His marriage to Robin Garson, a publicist, began in the early 1980s and lasted, though not without long separations and emotional strain due to his intense workload. The couple had 2 children, Maya and Travis, both of whom struggled with their father's demanding standards and long absences. Despite a lifetime of fame, Oz often wrestled with deep insecurity and the pressure to innovate. Professionally respected but personally guarded, he drifted from several close friends over the years. Now 81, Oz lives a quiet life in New York, distanced from Hollywood. His estate is estimated to be worth $30 million, built on decades of iconic contributions to film and television, though he's said to rarely revisit the worlds he helped build. Dan Aykroyd, who portrayed Elwood Blues, was just 28 in 1980 when he donned the dark suit and harmonica to become the stoic, deadpan brother to Jake. Elwood was the straight man to Belushi's chaos, calm, loyal, and curiously philosophical about car crashes and divine missions. In real life, Aykroyd carried immense grief after Belushi's death, a loss that haunted his career. Though he found continued success in Ghostbusters and other hits, his passion dimmed. He married actress Donna Dixon in 1983, and they had 3 daughters, Danielle, Belle, and Stella. While their marriage lasted over 3 decades, it was often marred by emotional distance and his obsessive focus on paranormal research and eccentric ventures, like his vodka brand. The couple quietly separated in 2022. Aykroyd struggled with depression and the guilt of outliving his closest friend. He became increasingly reclusive, his social circle shrinking. Despite the melancholy undercurrent of his life, he remains a respected figure, revered for his talent and loyalty. At 73, he lives mostly in Canada, with an estimated estate of $60 million, though he once said, "All the money can't bring Jake back." Kathleen Freeman, who portrayed Sister Mary Stigmata, better known as the Penguin, was 61 in 1980 when she played the ruler-wielding nun with a steely glare and a heart of gold. Her role was small but unforgettable, commanding both Jake and Elwood with the authority of divine justice and Catholic guilt. A stalwart of supporting roles, Freeman built a career of memorable bits but never found leading lady fame. Her personal life was deeply private. She never married and had no children, though rumors circulated for years about her unspoken long-term companionship with a fellow stage actress. Freeman's post-Blues Brothers years were marked by continued work in television and theater, though her health began to deteriorate in the late 1990s. She often felt overlooked by Hollywood and longed for deeper recognition. She reportedly battled loneliness and quietly mourned the passing of many of her longtime collaborators. Diagnosed with lung cancer in early 2001, she kept the illness private and continued working until the very end. She passed away on August 23, 2001, at the age of 82. Her estate, modest by Hollywood standards, was estimated at $900,000, much of which she left to theatrical charities and her lifelong friends. James Brown, who portrayed Reverend Cleophas James in the Blues Brothers, was 47 years old in 1980 when he brought to life the wildly charismatic preacher whose sermons were more like musical revivals. With ecstatic dancing and boundless energy, Brown's character inspired spiritual awakening through the power of funk and gospel. Off-screen, however, Brown's life was far more tumultuous. His marriage to Velma Warren in the early 1950s produced 3 children, Teddy, Terry, and Larry, but ended in divorce. 2 later marriages, to Deidre Jenkins and Adrian Rodriguez, were marred by infidelity, domestic violence, and drug abuse. Brown fathered at least 9 children in total, many of whom battled over his estate following his death. He faced multiple arrests, including high-speed chases and weapons charges, and struggled with addiction throughout the 1980s and 1990s. In his later years, he grew increasingly isolated, suffering from diabetes and prostate cancer. Brown died on December 25, 2006, at age 73 due to congestive heart failure, brought on by complications from pneumonia. His estate, estimated at around $100 million, was subject to a prolonged and bitter legal battle that lasted years, overshadowing much of his once revered musical legacy. Cab Calloway, who portrayed the dignified Curtis in the Blues Brothers, was 73 years old when he took on the role of the gentle mentor figure who helps guide Jake and Elwood with his seasoned wisdom, an unforgettable performance of Minnie the Moocher. Behind the smooth charisma was a man whose personal life was shadowed by regret. Married to Zone McNeil for over 50 years, their relationship was marked by frequent separations and long silences, mostly due to Cab's long absences on tour and rumored affairs. They had 1 daughter, Kamei, but Calloway's deep focus on his career left little time for fatherhood. Financial missteps, including poor investments and costly lawsuits, chipped away at his fortune. In his final years, he suffered a severe stroke that left him incapacitated and unable to speak, ending his ability to perform. He passed away on November 18, 1994, at the age of 86. Though once wealthy, Calloway's estate had dwindled to around $1 million, a modest sum for a man who once defined an era of jazz and swing, his legacy clinging mostly to faded recordings and grainy film reels. John Candy, who played the affable and ever-persistent Burton Mercer, was only 30 when he joined the Blues Brothers as the lovable parole officer, adding warmth and bumbling charm to the relentless chase. Beloved for his gentle soul and comedic brilliance, Candy's off-screen world was haunted by self-doubt, weight-related health issues, and anxiety. His marriage to Rosemary Margaret Hobo brought 2 children, Jennifer and Christopher, but the family life was bittersweet, with Candy often consumed by insecurities and guilt over his long absences and emotional withdrawal. He faced frequent battles with binge eating, depression, and an overwhelming pressure to remain funny even as he crumbled inside. His health rapidly declined in the early 90s, and he died tragically of a heart attack on March 4, 1994, in Mexico while filming Wagons East, at just 43 years old. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at around $15 million, but he left behind more than money. He left a broken-hearted family, a world of grieving fans, and a quiet legacy of laughter tinged with sadness. Stephen Williams, who portrayed Trooper Mount in the Blues Brothers, was 31 years old when he stepped into the role of the no-nonsense state trooper hot on the trail of the infamous brothers. His stern demeanor and commanding screen presence elevated the film's chaotic energy with a serious edge. Off-camera, Williams' career became a series of near breakthroughs followed by crushing setbacks. After brief success in television, including 21 Jump Street and The X-Files, he found himself repeatedly typecast and marginalized in the industry. Williams was briefly married in the late 80s, a union that collapsed within 3 years amid rumors of infidelity and clashes over his inconsistent income. He never remarried and has no children. His later years were marked by quiet solitude, distant from both family and fame, and he struggled with alcoholism before quietly entering recovery. Though he continues to act sporadically, often in minor roles, Williams now lives a modest life in Los Angeles. At 75 years old, he survives largely off royalties and residuals, with an estimated net worth of $300,000, far less than what his early promise had suggested. His legacy lingers as one of unfulfilled potential, a tough man with a tender heart never fully recognized by the spotlight. Steve Cropper, who appeared as himself in the Blues Brothers, was 39 years old when he brought his signature guitar style to the screen. As a founding member of Booker T. and the MGs and the legendary Stax Records house band, Cropper's soulful licks lent authenticity and brilliance to the film's musical ensemble. Though celebrated for his musical achievements, his personal life bore hidden sorrow. He was married to his high school sweetheart, Diane Hartwell, for 18 years before a quiet but painful divorce in 1989. They had 2 children, Michael and Aaron, but Cropper's frequent touring and dedication to music often distanced him from family life. Michael later struggled with substance abuse and estranged himself for years, adding heartache to Cropper's later years. He suffered a stroke in 2005, briefly halting his performances, and lost his longtime collaborator Donald "Duck" Dunn in 2012, which profoundly affected him. Though still alive at 83, Cropper now lives a solitary life in Nashville, relying on a close circle of former bandmates and loyal fans for connection. His estate is estimated at $3 million, most of it invested in music royalties and vintage guitars he rarely plays anymore. Charles Napier, who played Tucker McElroy, the furious, vengeance-driven leader of the Good Old Boys, was 44 during the Blues Brothers release. His baritone voice and imposing screen presence made his character's pursuit of Jake and Elwood both menacing and darkly comedic. Off-screen, Napier's journey was anything but easy. Twice divorced, his second marriage to Dolores Adams ended after years of emotional distance and infidelity. He fathered 3 children, Megan, Kyle, and Peter, but was rarely present, a fact he lamented in his later interviews. Napier battled alcoholism for decades, which derailed several career opportunities, including a major role in a primetime series. He also suffered from deep insecurities about being typecast, despite his prolific character work. In 2001, he underwent open-heart surgery, which marked the beginning of his physical decline. He died on October 5, 2011, at the age of 75, from complications related to thrombosis. His estate was estimated at $400,000, much of which went to cover medical expenses and modest bequests to his children, who remained mostly distant at the time of his death. Gwen Banta, who portrayed the woman at Bob's Country Bunker, was 30 years old when she took on the small but lively role amid the film's iconic country western chaos. Though her screen time was limited, Banta's expressive reactions and timing left a lasting impression. Behind the scenes, her career struggled to gain traction. After the Blues Brothers, she landed only minor TV roles, eventually moving into real estate, while nurturing screenwriting projects that never found buyers. Her personal life was equally unsteady. Married briefly to a struggling actor named Paul Ledbetter, their union ended in divorce after 4 years marked by financial tension and miscarriage grief. She never had children and has spoken candidly about the loneliness that settled into her 50s. Banta also endured a long battle with lupus, which forced her to retire early from the industry. Now 75, she lives a quiet life in California, mostly alone but occasionally attending fan conventions where she's warmly remembered. Her estate is estimated around $200,000, built largely from property investments rather than Hollywood. Henry Gibson, who portrayed the head Nazi, the cartoonishly deranged leader of the Illinois Nazis, was 45 years old when he delivered one of the film's most absurdly memorable antagonists. His soft-spoken menace and theatrical diction turned the role into dark comic gold. A veteran character actor, Gibson's post-Blues Brothers career never reached the same heights, despite a steady stream of TV roles. His marriage to Lois Gibson lasted 40 years, but it was marked by silence more than companionship. They had 3 sons, James, Charles, and John, though Charles died tragically in a motorcycle accident in 1987, a loss Gibson never emotionally recovered from. He struggled with depression and isolation, especially after his wife's passing in 2006. Professionally, he faced typecasting and resentment for being associated with Nazi imagery, limiting opportunities in more serious dramatic roles. Gibson passed away from cancer on September 14, 2009, at the age of 73. His estate, valued at approximately $1.2 million, was divided between his surviving sons and a donation to a children's literacy foundation, one of the few causes that brought him joy late in life. Carrie Fisher, who portrayed the relentless and explosive mystery woman in the Blues Brothers, was 24 years old when she took on the role, a fiery, obsessive ex-lover bent on avenging her broken engagement with Jake Blues. Known for her piercing eyes and sharp wit, Fisher brought manic intensity to the role, blending danger and absurdity. Off-screen, her life was a tragic symphony of brilliance and pain. She struggled for decades with bipolar disorder and substance abuse, which derailed parts of her career. Her brief marriage to singer Paul Simon was marked by turbulence and heartbreak. They had no children. She had one daughter, Billie Lord, from a later relationship with talent agent Brian Lord, who left her for a man. Fisher's relationship with her own famous parents, Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher, was complicated by abandonment and dysfunction. 5 major tragedies shadowed her: addiction, mental illness, career instability, family estrangement, and the loss of close friends. She died of cardiac arrest at 60 in 2016, shortly after suffering a heart attack aboard a flight. 1 day later, her mother passed away. Carrie Fisher's estate, including royalties, intellectual properties, and memorabilia, was valued at approximately $25 million, though many say no figure could measure her fierce spirit or fractured heart. Aretha Franklin, who appeared as the commanding Mrs. Murphy in the Blues Brothers at age 38, electrified audiences with her powerhouse rendition of Think. As the no-nonsense soul food matron, she held her ground, embodying the strength and pride she exuded in her music. While she triumphed professionally, her personal life was deeply marred by tragedy. Franklin had 4 sons, Clarence, Edward, Ted, and Keith, through complex and often painful relationships. Her first 2 pregnancies occurred when she was just 12 and 14 years old, both kept secret at the time. Her first marriage to Ted White was abusive and short-lived, and although she later wed actor Glynn Turman, they divorced after 6 years, citing emotional distance. Family squabbles, health issues, and deep-rooted insecurities haunted her. Among her tragedies were childhood trauma, alcoholism, cancer, financial disputes among heirs, and chronic loneliness. She passed away from pancreatic cancer on August 16, 2018, at 76, leaving behind a messy legal battle over her handwritten wills. Her estate, initially estimated at $80 million, dwindled under IRS scrutiny and feuding heirs, settling near $17 million by 2023. Yet her legacy as the Queen of Soul remains untouchable, resilient, raw, and resounding. Twiggy, who played the elegant chic lady in the Blues Brothers at 30, brought a quiet allure to the fleeting gas station scene, a symbol of fantasy and momentary connection amid the film's chaos. A global fashion icon of the 1960s, Twiggy, born Leslie Hornby, struggled to transition from modeling to a serious acting career. Though beloved for her looks, she often felt dismissed in film circles. Her first marriage to American actor Michael Whitney ended in heartbreak. He died of a heart attack after years of alcohol abuse. She later married Lee Lawson, with whom she has a son, Jason, from a previous relationship. Despite outward appearances, her home life was often fractured by grief, the pressures of fame, and the trauma of being objectified from such a young age. 5 painful chapters define her past: the early death of her first husband, career typecasting, miscarriage, public scrutiny over her body image, and years of self-doubt. Now 75, Twiggy lives quietly in the English countryside, seldom seen in the spotlight. While she continues to dabble in design and memoir writing, she is haunted by what might have been. Her estate is estimated at $10 million, but her most prized possessions remain private letters, old photographs, and the fragments of a fragile girl once frozen in time. Who is your favorite character from the Blues Brothers? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.